regular meeting order of the Newman City Council and Redevelopment Agency of January 22nd, 2008. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your head. Lord, we thank you for bringing us all here together tonight for the good of our citizens of Newman. We ask that you touch each one of us and give us the wisdom and knowledge to make the right decisions for the city of Newman and its community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ed. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Caden?
Here.
Councilmember Kelly?
Here.
Councilmember Creekall?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martino?
Present.
Mayor Fennessy?
Present. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Don't believe we have any this evening. Ceremonial matter, we have a badge pinning this evening. Reserve Officer Don Hutchins. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. It gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce and swear in our newest reserve officer, Don Hutchins. And Don, I'll have you step forward, please, as I introduce you. Don was born in Fort Worth, Texas. He asked me not to give his date of birth.
Old. Jeez.
And he was raised in Texas, and after joining the Marine Corps, he came out to California. Don has an AA degree from Merced College and a BA degree from the University of Redlands. Don has been married to his wife Barbara for 31 years. They have a son Jason and a daughter Colleen. I'd like to share with you Don's law enforcement career. He's not new to law enforcement. He started with Huntington Beach Police Department in 1972, and with Huntington Beach he was a crime scene investigator. He also worked undercover narcotics and was a patrol officer. He worked Merced County Sheriff's Department from 1978 to 1980. He was a deputy with Merced County, and when he left, he was at the rank of acting sergeant. Don went to work for a Ceres Police Department in 1989 through 2000, and with Ceres Police Department, he was a patrol officer, he was a DARE officer, he was a detective in 1992 assigned to property crimes. He also worked person crimes, rape, robbery, and homicides. He was assigned to the Drug Enforcement Agency in 1994, and in 1997 he was promoted to the rank of sergeant. He left Ceres Police Department in 2000 when he became the chief of Gustine Police Department in February of 2000, and honorably retired on January of 2007 after 30 years in law enforcement. Recently, Don came to me and said he would be interested in being a reserve officer because of his love for the profession and the fact that he misses the cops and robbers aspect of law enforcement. And hearing it from somebody who just recently retired after 30 years in law enforcement, I know exactly what it was he was talking about. A kindred spirit here, let me tell you. Don is going to work patrol for us and brings lots of years of experience to our patrol force. Also will help out with our younger officers. As you know, we've brought a lot of officers onto our department recently. We have a lot of young officers out there, and Don will be able to mentor and coach and bring those officers along and help them in their career in law enforcement. I also have administrative projects that Don's going to be working on. He's going to be helping us establish a master training plan for the department, helping Sergeant Richardson get our officers into the training. Now that we're up to full staff, we can now start training our officers. So he's going to be working with that and establishing a master training plan so that as a department we know which classes we need to attend and who's going to be attending those classes. A lot of administrative work needs to go into that. I've also saddled Don with the project of the radio project. And that is, do we continue with our dispatch relationship as it currently exists, or do we look forward and move forward to dispatching with Turlock Police Department? Don, as Chief of Gustine, had this project, and we're going to do a cost-benefit analysis and bring that back to the council so that we can discuss it in the budget process. So not only is Don going to be working the street with the younger officers, but also doing administrative tasks and functions. So, Don, without further ado, and with the mayor's permission,
Please proceed.
I'll administer the oath of office. So, Don, I'd ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Donald Hutchins,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will
that I will
bear true faith and allegiance
bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will
and that I will
well and faithfully
well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am
upon which I am
about to enter.
about to enter.
Congratulations. Welcome. Don is no stranger to the oath of office, obviously being sworn in numerous previous times in law enforcement. But more importantly, he's also sworn in the U.S. Marine Corps, where he was a Vietnam vet and serving combat duty in Vietnam. So with that, Don realizes the significance and importance of the oath of office. So Don, if you will, please say a few words.
Thank you.
And, before you say a few words, who would you like to have pinned to your badge on?
My wife, Barbara.
Barbara, you step forward.
We're going to do it the nice way, though, not the Marine Corps way.
Do you have your badge?
No.
It's okay.
I'll talk while you go.
Please, Don, go ahead. Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for this. I know it seems kind of strange, having been through law enforcement for 30 years and then coming back into it, but I do miss the camaraderie. And I've known some of them I even had work under me in the city of Gustine. I've worked with Sergeant Richardson and the Newman PD side by side for several years. I look forward to it. I know there have been some rumors out there that I wanted to be chief of police for the city of Newman, and I want to quench that right now. I have no desire. I won't say I don't have any desire. I'm not looking for that position. I want to be a reserve. I want to help out. I have my own business here in Newman, and I've had my own business here in Newman. This is going on the second year now. And so I look forward to working with these guys, working with the chief, and just doing what I can to assist in any way that I can.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You should be an old hand at this part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you. Somebody, I'm getting a cold.
Item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody has anything they'd like to bring before us that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time.
Thank you, Mayor Fantasia and members of the council. My name is Mark Trinta. I'm with SCM Homes in Modesto. I'm here to discuss the status of the Sherman Ranch fee reimbursement agreement, topic that's been kind of tossed around recently here. You'll recall that on December 11th, we were here with Mr. Adaberry, our council, Mr. Abbott, the city's council, we agreed to move forward at an effort to resolve the matter. We met shortly thereafter with staff and made some progress, modified some exhibits. We reconvened by conference call on January 3rd. Came to what we thought was final terms after Mr. Mothercell had acquiesced to a few extra items requested. We thought we had the final dealings in terms of an agreement. We offered to have Mr. Atterbury draft the agreement. Staff was very insistent that Mr. Abbott go ahead and draft the agreement. 2 weeks ago, we were told that the agreement was in progress. He was drafting it. As late as last week, we're assured that we would have a draft agreement. We haven't seen anything. This is what's been happening on this matter for 2 years. We are very frustrated. We thought that we had the matter, finished, and here we are, back here with this status and not bringing you an approved agreement or an agreement for you to approve, which was what we really were hoping for tonight. We've been told that the next meeting is February 12th, 3 weeks out. We would hope that we would have an agreement to bring to you prior to that, and we would respectfully request that you would consider a special meeting if we do come to terms. That's where we are. There's your update. Wish I had something more for you, but I don't. I want to thank you for your time and be willing to offer any questions that you might have.
Michael, status on the agreement being finished by attorney?
Yeah, this is a this is a very complicated matter, and I hope Mr. Trenta would take acknowledgement of that. We're trying to really fold in two agreements into one reimbursement agreement. The fact of the matter is we don't have to do a separate reimbursement agreement. We have an agreement in place, and we are still legally in conformance with that agreement. This is something that the city has chosen to do to work with SCM. So, again, it's very complicated. We're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. I was really hoping that it was going to get done. I talked to Mr. Hoffman. I told Mr. Mothercell that his attorney is free to contact Mr. Hoffman and to see where they're at with that and see why it's getting held up over there. And so I'm not hiding anything. They have an opportunity to discuss that with our attorneys, and they're working diligently. I don't control their schedules, but I've shared with them that I wanted this thing done. They couldn't get it done. I told them that we definitely need to have it done for the 12th. We're not trying to hold anything up. I want it off my desk just as much as they want it done. So,
Michael, I'd like to see it. I think we reached a lot of strides in trying to come to an agreement, get this thing worked out, and I appreciate. We want to do what's best for our community, but I can also understand the frustration. So maybe we can just kind of put a fire under them a little bit, and let's get this thing done and get it over with.
I'm pushing as hard as I can.
Okay.
Councilman.
Would you get a hold of him once again and then contact Mr. Trenner?
I have a conference call set up for tomorrow morning. So,
Thank you.
Is there any chance that it'll be done before the 3 weeks, or you think it's going to take
it'll
them?
definitely. He indicated to me that he should be getting a final draft to me either tomorrow or the next day. So
If that's done, do we need a special meeting to sign that, or is that something?
it'd be very difficult. I'm out of town the first week of February. So.
But is it something we need to meet as a council to
I don't
ratify?
think. Again, we're not out of conformance with any agreements or any laws. So therefore, I don't see there to be a need to have a special meeting for this one agenda for this one item. I would defer to the city attorney if he thinks otherwise.
Yeah, we do have an agreement in place, that's true. I think what you're asking was, does the council have to approve that?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, so we would have to have it heard at some council meeting. Sounds like there's a practical problem with doing that before the 12th, but you do have to sign off on that.
I guess my only concern is if we're that close to getting it done, let's just get it done. If we can get it done, and if it's the 12th, then so be it. Let's get it done and have it ready. Let them know that we as a council would like to have it completed.
I have absolutely no reason to believe it will not be agendized for the 12th.
And that's the marching orders for Abbott and Kinderman.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Any other non-agenda items? Seeing none. Agenda items, when an item comes before it, you'd like to comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Consent calendar. Item A, waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. Item B, approval of warrants. And item C, approval of minutes of the January 8th, 2008 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. 9, public hearings. We have, actually, the first one, A, the public nuisances have all been taken care of. Everybody complied, so that one is canceled. We'll move on to the second one, introduction of ordinance number 2008, next number, an ordinance approving zone change number 2007-02.
Thank you, Mayor. Our assistant planner, Stephanie Ocasio, will do a staff presentation, followed by any questions by the council, and the applicants are here to do a PowerPoint presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This evening we have the ordinance requesting approving zone change 0702. On January 17th, 2008, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and approved the site plan review and recommended the proposed zone change to council for approval. As of today, we've received 3 comments from the same individual, and he's here in the audience if you'd like to speak to him. Brief analysis, the applicant applied for a site plan review and zone change from R1 to R3 to conform with the Newman 2030 general plan for a 72-unit multifamily apartment project. The site is currently vacant and is designated as high density by our general plan. So this will actually bring the zoning in conformance with the general plan as designated by general plan. Upon review by staff, CEQA attorneys, and environmental consultants, the project has been determined to be exempt with no exceptions under sections 15192 and 15194, which is affordable housing chapters. The proposed project is compatible with and will not have a negative impact upon the immediate neighborhood. The design has been approved by the Architectural Review Committee, and the zone change has been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. It will provide much-needed affordable housing for the community and will be an asset to the surrounding neighborhood. It is in our redevelopment area. It's in a properly designated area in our general plan. The AEIR has already, studied traffic issues with this area. It's already been anticipated for high density, and a good spot. So, is there any questions?
Stefan, I just had one question that's in the staff report. I see the planning commissioners voted 4-1. Did
Yes.
Commissioner Candia indicate why he opposed the project?
Based on my recollection, I believe that he was just wondering about traffic issues, but in the general plan, the EIR, that was designated as high density. So that's already been taken into account, that anything that's going to go there is going to obviously be a higher population. So the traffic's already been taken into account in terms of that study.
So that was his number one
that
concern,
seems
was
to be his
traffic.
main concern based on my recollection.
Okay, I was just curious about that. Any other questions for Stephanie? Seeing none, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and staff. My name is Tim Miller, Miller Planning and Design, Merced, California. I'm here tonight with Jake Lingo and Bing Lingo from the Corporation for Better Housing. First, I'd like to thank your staff for the time they've spent working with us on the site plan and processing these applications, and for the opportunity to work with the Architectural Review Committee to work on the site plan issues. While we're not here to really talk about the site plan, it is just a zoning matter. We are prepared to give you a briefing on the project, just so you understand what the development would be.
Tim, excuse me a minute. Hold
Sure.
that microphone up a little bit. We're going to have Bob out here.
I think we need to get a taller one, I think.
I could lean over a little bit. How's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, the focus tonight is the zone change, but we are here and have been asked by staff to give you a brief highlight of the project. And we'd like to discuss the site plan, discuss a little bit about the company background as well as the long-term operations and maintenance of the facilities. We do know from the staff that there was a letter that was submitted to you with issues raised regarding the traffic, and as Stephanie has pointed out, your general plan, which I participated in a number of meetings with you as a part of that process, went through both a very comprehensive land use and circulation studies, and in your environmental document, both assess the existing traffic conditions and the future traffic conditions, and include within that document recommendations for improvements throughout the city, including the intersection of 33 and Kern and other locations around the project. But that was based on the assumption of a high-density land use development at that location. So through the implementation of your general plan and the mitigation measures you've already adopted, traffic concerns in that area will be addressed. I would also point out that the project that is being proposed, although the land use designation allows up to 29 units per acre, or some 100 units on the 3.5 acres that we're looking at, we're only developing the site to 72 units, which is 25 to 30% less than which would otherwise be allowed. So the actual traffic characteristics of the development are less than what was considered as a part of your general plan EIR. The staff has done a thorough job through their environmental review for the categorical exemption, both as an infill project and as an affordable housing project. And there's provision in state law that where there's projects of this size with conforming land use designations and an assessment that there aren't any significant impacts, then the categorical exemption is the vehicle for you to move ahead with the project approval, and that's what staff's recommending to you and what we're asking you to do tonight. So we'd ask you to support the Planning Commission's recommendation for a favorable consideration of the zone change, and we'll go into a brief presentation of the project, and then all of us are available to answer questions that may come up by the council at the close of our presentation. I would like to reserve comments after the public has an opportunity to comment for any rebuttal remarks, if that's all right, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you.
As we can see, I need to adjust it downward. Thank you, Mr. Bayer, members of the City Council. My name's Ben Lingo, and I'm here tonight on the behalf of Corporation for Better Housing to present this proposed development on Driscoll Avenue. We're very excited to be here. I'll do my best to keep my comments to a minimum, try to hit as many high points as I can, and again, we are all available to answer any questions that may come up. Let's see if I can do this. Wrong one. There we go. Corporation for Better Housing is a 501c3 not-for-profit affordable housing developer that was established in 1995, whose mission is to provide amenity-rich workforce or affordable housing to the families and seniors of California. It's our goal to construct both a quality development to also couple that development with social services that will benefit and enrich the lives of our residents, and we also hope benefit the community of Newman as a whole. As we can see on the next slide, we currently have 26 completed developments throughout California, totaling approximately 1,550 units. We also have 676 currently under construction. And we also have a very large concentration in the San Joaquin Valley. While this will be our first development in Newman, we have many developments from the South San Joaquin Valley, actually all the way through the San Joaquin Valley and up to the East Bay. In fact, we're currently constructing a 105-unit development located in Los Banos that we work very closely with the city. In fact, it's being constructed on land that's owned by the redevelopment agency. All right. As indicated, the project location is on Driscoll Avenue. It's in between what I would call the terminus or the terminuses, that's the correct plural, of M Street. We were attracted to this location for various reasons, the first of which is the walking distance to the central business district of Newman, the fact that it's close to jobs, services, schools, etc. And we also think it's a fantastic opportunity to redevelop or develop a site that is somewhat blighted, has some old structures that definitely need to be taken down. They're somewhat of a nuisance and potentially a dangerous condition. The site plan will house 72 units on about 3.5 acres. The units will be configured in a 2-story or garden-style walk-up configuration with stacked flats, and will be built around very lushly landscaped community areas. As you can see, the architecture that we have designed is very traditional California craftsman. This was arrived at through a lot of research and a lot of communication with not only city staff, but also extensive conversations with the Architecture Review Committee. We had 3 meetings with the committee, and very excited about where we're at today. I think that what we proposed was a very nice, very good development. However, through the 3 meetings and the extensive conversations, I'm really confident and excited because I think it's now better. I think the site plan is better, and I think that the elevation is better. And so I appreciate the interactive and collaborative process that we shared with both staff and the Architecture Review Committee. Won't bore you with too much of the summary. I think that staff's done a good job of discussing that. But I would like to go into some of the project amenities. This is representative of what the interior or courtyard areas will look like. This is a development that's built in the San Joaquin Valley, in the South San Joaquin Valley, and it has about 8,000 square feet of open space. The development before you this evening has in excess of 20,000. It's a bigger development, but just again, to give everybody a little bit of perspective, some of the amenities that we will be providing will be a park-like tot lot, barbecue and picnic areas, perimeter fencing, and quality landscaping of this, I think, being an example of some of the unit amenities. All of the units will be built. Some of the high points, we use granite countertops and backsplashes in all of the units. Energy Star energy efficient appliances, premium carpet and cabinets, and central heating. Just a brief aside, a lot of people, you don't see typically granite countertops in apartments, much less what we're calling affordable, which I'll get into kind of that definition and discuss affordable in a moment. But I think that it's indicative of really our company's philosophy. They cost a little bit more. However, we've been doing this for 7 years. We've never had to replace one. Doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you have a typical apartment finish with the laminate countertop, as soon as it gets wet, as soon as someone puts a pot or pan down on it, we have issues. We have to replace it. So while it is a little bit more expensive, it's an investment that we want to make in the unit, in the development, because long-term maintenance is just much better. This is a development. We've never sold a single unit. We have no plans of selling a unit. It's our business plan to hold, to maintain, to provide these social services. So it's very important to us to build the best development, not only for the community, but also so that we can manage properly. And hopefully that's indicative of our philosophy. Part of the development will be a community room. It'll be approximately 15,000 feet. This is the computer lab area. The overall community room will look much like this. This is a development that we just completed in a town called Santa Paula in Ventura County, of similar size, similar variety of what we would be planning to do here. In our community room, we offer many courses, many different programs that we will provide either ourselves, and many times we will partner with local not-for-profits. We do things such as after-school homework club for the children, GED and ESL courses if there's the demand, computer training. We'll do health referrals to local clinics or doctors. And again, this is all free of charge to the residents. And where we have the demand and we have the ability, which we hope to here, it is possible that we will also schedule to bring folks that live in Newman but not in this development to be able to utilize the facility as well. In fact, during the past 2 years in our various San Joaquin Valley communities, we've actually had 1,500 people now complete either GED or ESL courses free of charge in our community rooms. It's something we're extremely proud of. And again, it's It's about building the proper development. It's about building something we can all be proud of. But it's really, we hope, also about bettering the community. And it's neat when you can impact families and people's lives this way. The other thing the reason we do it is the fact of the matter is if we can create opportunities and programs and keep the children busy, there's less likely that the chief and his folks will need to be tending to and looking after the children that live there. And that is always the intention with the tot lots, with the community rooms, etc. We've also done many programs within these community rooms, local DARE programs, police activity leagues, sheriff's activity leagues, etc. So, and again, this has been discussed as being affordable. And what does affordable mean? Well, affordable in this instance, we will be offering these units to folks that earn between 30 and 60% of AMI, or area median income. Again, what does that mean? What we're looking at, just to give everybody an example, a family of four, I believe that the median income in Stanislaus County for a family of four is about $56,000. So we're looking at folks for a family of four that would make between $17,000 and $34,000. So depending on the family size, it could be a little more or a little bit less, but you're typically looking at working class, workforce type families. And again, you can see the rents would range between $290 and about $835, again, depending on how much they would make. Now, the most important part of this, and we can show pretty pictures and we can show a development that when it's completed, it will be very nice, it will be beautiful, I'm very confident it'll be the nicest apartment development in the area. But really what's going to separate us, and what I hope when there's an opportunity to do something like this in the future, that I hope that you'll consider calling us and having us look at something again, is going to be the management. Oftentimes when we hear affordable housing, the first thing that we think of is really something that was built as market rate housing. Over the years, it becomes dilapidated, deferred maintenance, people don't take care of it, and it becomes affordable or below market really by default. This is not that. This is affordable by design. We've planned for this to be affordable. We have a financing structure in place to keep it affordable. It'll be affordable at these levels for 55 years. This is done through various layers of financing, tax credits, et cetera, things that I won't bore you with this evening, but will allow us to maintain it at a professional, high standard, the standard I think that we all will expect, and do so and not needing to cut corners. This is how it's underwritten, it's how it's designed, it's how it will be operated and managed. We will be making a $15 million investment in Newman. I and our company have a tremendous vested interest that this continues to be not only maintained and operated and managed correctly. It's a very large investment that we'll be making. And again, one thing I want to point out, we've never sold anything, we never plan to sell anything. There will be full-time staff on site every day. It will be, typically for a development of this size, it will be 3 people, which would be 2 full-time people, a manager and assistant manager, and most likely a part-time maintenance person. And that can change depending on demand. So there'll be basically 3 people on site all the time to deal with any issues that may come up. Also, as I indicated, because we have a large concentration of developments in the San Joaquin Valley, we also have an extensive team of regional managers that would also be available, would be touring the site on a weekly basis, but in case something were to happen, would be close by and able to get here. We also have home office staff and support staff that's in office that also looks at and maintains the management of this on a daily basis. At this point, that's a little bit about us. It's a little bit about the development. I can either sit down and have others comment, or would also be willing to take questions now if there are any.
Ben, I've got one question. Of the 1,552 units you've already built, you're still actively involved in all of them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mike, you said that, was it Stephanie called? The other, couple of the other units? Yeah. Steph, do you want to comment on that, could you?
called a number of cities and I was able to get in contact with 3. It was Parlier, and I got a hold of someone in Bakersfield, and I believe it was Portersville. And they all had positive comments. Parlier, just exact quote, has the highest praises. They had multiple projects, I believe 3? 2. And he said that they were very happy with it, never had any issues, no abatement issues, management's great. Just really had nothing but high praises.
Good.
And Shun Patlin was the community development director, and he said I can quote him on that. So.
Thanks, Steph.
Just to add just briefly to that, it's one of the things that we definitely pride ourselves in. And if you look, and I think you folks have a list of our projects, of our developments, a lot of repeat business. That's been the hallmark and trademark of our business. If I come in and tell you things that aren't true, aren't going to happen, you're not going to ask me back. And so far, as you can see, that's really been our business plan, is to come back and do multiple developments in communities or in areas. It helps for management after we establish relationships, et cetera. So I appreciate those kind words, and I would recommend that anybody feel free to call and check on us. All we have is our reputation. So I think it's a good question.
Further questions?
As I looked at this, and I was really impressed with the amenities and everything, and my first thought was, the low-income apartments. However, if they're maintained half as nice as what the Driscoll apartments are, and I tell you, when those apartments came in over 20 years ago, there was a lot of concerns. But those apartments have been so well maintained over the years. The site is well maintained, the yards, the buildings, and so if these continue to look what we see on the pictures, I think it'd be nothing but a positive for that area.
Is this comment time now, John, for us too?
Well, we're going to allow any
Okay.
other people from the public.
Gotcha.
Any other public comments?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other public comments? Yes, sir. Just please come up and give us your name and address. And
My name is Ronald Jorstad. I live at 818 Foxglove Court. I don't see the picture there. I'm the one that wrote the 3 letters. And I got no complaints about, the place looks nice. My concern is the traffic. And you've seen it in my letter, what my concerns are. I don't want to whitewash on this. I would prefer to see something professional that's certified by the state of California that says that there's no traffic problem. And I also want to see a Caltrans report certifying there is no problem. And if you guys can't come up with it, then I say reject it. And that's the whole. And one more thing too. In my second letter, I asked if I could have some sort of a sole approval review, with the management, housing management, and the architectural staff on maybe refiguring some of the stuff I don't like. Because there's parking, just from what I glanced at the picture, there's parking right alongside my wall. I don't like that. I don't want traffic there. I don't like people standing on cars and jumping over my wall, my fence. I would like, if I could have permission to be involved in that somehow. That's all I have to say.
thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back for any further discussion from the council or staff or.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
I have to admit, I'm totally against it, but it's the old thing. And I went in and I compliment you guys on excellent job. You got it through the architectural and the planning commission. You've really done a nice job, and it's a nice looking. I spoke with Mike this afternoon. We were talking, and I just happened to bring it up. And I don't want more low-income housing here, or very low-income housing here. But I asked him about, was it Section 8, Mike, is what?
We don't call it Section 8, but there are what's called your housing element, which is the general plan, the housing and community development from the state level that mandates that cities take their fair share of affordable workforce housing into their communities, as well as redevelopment law. The redevelopment law says that 20% of the housing units constructed within your redevelopment agency have to be set aside for workforce/affordable housing.
And we're way behind the 8 ball on that, aren't we?
We are behind schedule.
Yes, and so it's going to happen. And so I made a decision this afternoon that I would definitely support this because I think you guys are the Cadillac of the industry, especially when I heard that Stephanie had called and stuff like that. I still don't like it, but it's going to happen, whether we like it or not. And I'd rather have you guys do it than somebody coming in here in a lot less quality and stuff like that. So I just wanted to get my opinion out there. Thank you.
And I think it's something that's definitely needed. It's one of the things I hear all the time, affordable housing, something to start out in. A young couple that lived here all their life, maybe they get married, have a child or something to work here, they can't hardly afford to buy a house, let alone find something affordable in the meantime till they have the means to buy something. So this is definitely needed. Any other council comments?
No, I think there's a real need for something like this in Newman, and I think it's a good project.
The only comment that I have, or the several comments that I have, is that, first of all, we know that we actually cannot stop the project since it's already zoned that way. We've learned that before. And I agree with Ted that I think their concept, their design, and the fact that they have all the other units and they're managing them is very important down the road, 10, 20 years, that we still have a quality product over there. So I commend them for that.
Could I just add to, is there any possible way of writing it into the contract that they used, Newman help first, if they're qualified?
That's against state and federal laws. You cannot.
That's a little.
What we
Detailed.
what we will do with and work with the property owners is lots of their initial advertising comes by way of banners and local advertising in the city of Newman, and then they will not reach out to other communities on the other side of the valley unless it just gets to a point to where it's already open and they have some vacancies and no one's waiting. I would tell you that is going to be a very slim chance. When you looked at Rolling Hills, which is the Prince Road project, they had twice as many, 3 times as many applicants, and they still have a waiting list out there. So I think the vacancy rate that you're going to see in our community for this type of product is probably on the magnitude of order of 1% to 2%. It'll fill up really quick, and I think it'll fill up with people. And I'm gonna use the term in our school district, because you may get some people from outside the city limits, but they're in the area. They already go to our school. They already participate in our community, who may move into these.
That's what we want.
One other comment, just to address your concerns, Mr. Jerstadt. I fully understand where you're coming from, what you're saying, and I think 2 points. Number one, that if somebody is on top of their car and jumping in your backyard, a call to City Hall, call to the police department, and that will be stopped. The second part of it is, I think if you talk to the developers, they would be more than happy to work with you to try to alleviate some of the concerns you might have. I know in the past and some of the other projects, there's been some problems, and you'll find that a developer usually is willing to go in an extra yard to satisfy your concerns, and I would hope that would happen in this case. But we are sensitive to it. Well, not necessarily, but I'm sure that if you talk to them, I would think that they would reach some sort of, or try to reach some sort of compromise.
Who would get in contact first, me or them?
I would say that you should approach them. Is that agreeable with you, Tim?
Sure. I need names and addresses.
They will
Thank you, Tim.
contact you,
Thank you.
chat on the way out there.
Also, Mayor, just real quickly, I know there were some concerns about through traffic through the site. We decided during the planning commission meeting, the applicants are also concerned about through traffic through the site, people taking shortcuts. So at the rear, of the north side of the project, it'll really be an EVA, which is the emergency vehicle access point, and then we'll have some pedestrian access through the site during daylight hours. Now, it's probably not wise to have pedestrian access through there or unfettered access at all hours of the day, but during the daylight hours, they didn't believe it would be an issue to have pedestrian access through the site during daylight hours, and then you have emergency vehicle access out the back. So.
It sounded like there's enough parking. I mean, you guys did your homework. It's very nice. I was impressed that way.
So, and then the applicants have agreed to work with the chief and fire chief and the police chief about the EVA and how that's going to be achieved. You know, there's a level of public safety for their tenants as well as being able to provide some access through there. So we'll work out those details.
Sounds good. With that, if there's no further comments, some direction would be great.
I move for approval.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to regular business, item 8, presentation of schematic design for aquatic center project from NTD Stickler.
Thank you, Mayor. It's with great pleasure that we have NTD Steckler back. Through working with our design committee, we're now completing the second phase, which is the schematic design phase of the aquatic design aquatic center project, excuse me. So Mr. Tal Lewis and Ms. Trish Soto are here to talk about where we're at with that project and give a presentation to you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The last time I was here before you, we completed the master planning phase for your new aquatic facility and future community center. We have proceeded with that process, working with the steering committee and Michael to develop this and complete the schematic design phase. I have, as Michael said, with me here tonight is Trish Soto, our aquatic consultant with Councilman Hunsaker. She's here. She can address any issues. She may interrupt me in the middle of this to clarify some things as we go into the presentation. But any questions you have specific to the activities, functions, and physical aspects of the pools themselves, and help me with any of the design issues and questions just for the facility overall. And like I said, this concludes the schematic design phase. From here, it moves ahead into the working drawings, which become pretty intense. But there are a lot of minor issues and details to be resolved through that process. This simply establishes the basic plans, configuration, architectural style. We've proposed some materials, as you'll see, that were supported by consensus of the committee. We're happy with it, although there may still be some adjustments and some changes as we hopefully move ahead. You have in front of you, because we've had a little difficulty with resolution on this screen and being able to read or see any of the detail, we have this handout that is small but maybe a little clearer, hopefully, than the projected image. This is the site plan that was basically approved by City Council. And
Trying to see the audience.
You were leaving us in the dark, Michael.
We're going to be in the dark. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It has evolved through a number of modifications that addressed concerns that both council and committee had. This is a slightly tighter view, focusing on the less of the park and more of the aquatic facility and community center. The bathhouse entrance on West Street from NU, just off the intersection of Merced. In and out, this is going to be set up as, or the intent is to use the entrance onto West Street from Inyo as the primary point of access and egress to this. So that would, in effect, reduce traffic through the neighborhood. The community center is the facility here to the left of the site on the north side. We oriented the aquatic facility, just as a quick review of the master plan, to the busier intersection side. It gives stronger visibility to people arriving or approaching or passing. It puts the noisy part, or the more active part of the facility, the furthest from the residential areas. So it provides as large a buffer as is practical on this site just to accommodate the neighbors. We have 3 pools proposed, 2 pools and a spray pad. This is an 8-lane general recreational competition pool. Trish, if you'd like to explain a little more about it, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, it's proposed to be an 8-lane, 25-yard pool, which would allow for high school competition and swim team training. There's a great deal of the pool, almost 45% of it is shallow, so there's plenty of room for lesson programs. We've got scheduled a 1 meter springboard diving, which would also meet your high school requirements. It's a deck level gutter system, which pretty much is water level at deck level, which makes it user friendly, easier to get in and out of. A bather capacity of about 242 people based on the California code, which is probably, you'll be hard pressed to get that many in it, but it's adequate for a community of your size.
And with that, we do kind of address some of the features, some of the programs that it will accommodate.
This is just briefly the schematic design drawings. From this stage we go into develop design drawings and construction documents, but it shows that the majority of this pool is a shallow pool, so that it accommodates a lot of learn to swim programs and things like that, which is very important in a community like this. But we have a deep area, so we can have starting blocks and some springboard diving. You'll be able to teach lifeguard programs and things for Red Cross. All the community essentials will be accommodated. Then we looked at a recreation pool. Recreation swimming dollars are big when you're trying to offset some costs. You want to look at all the opportunities to bring in some revenue. And weekend swimming and participation from families to use this is important. We've got amenities in here from the slide at the far side, which can be segregated from the rest of the pool with a lame line. Having some of your older children, maybe 10 to 12, rotating in that area. Across to the left of the screen, we're proposing a play structure for younger children, and then we've got a zero entry, which is very popular today with some spray features in it. But we've still got a step entry and adequate room for the very young learn to swim programs, 2.5, 3-year-old children in a 2'6" to 3 foot deep area of water. So that's very much an all-round pool for the family.
These are just the copies of some of the schematic drawings that Michael has has in his set that was delivered. This shows the zero entry, how that works, and the overall depths. You will have copies of all of that material available to you.
And then we looked at a spray feature, a spray pad. The basic difference is there's no standing water. When children are wanting to interact with these play features, they can operate from a bollard type system. Children come along, hit the bollard, the water comes on, they play with it. If it has no activity, it'll shut off. And there's no standing water. The water for circulation of this is underground. Again, it's recreation value for the community.
This is, we have anticipated 2 phases. The aquatic facility, I think, is the most important to the community to tackle first. And then the community center potentially as a later phase. We have worked to incorporate a small administrative area for the pool that would, in the future, be incorporated into the community center. The bathhouse has the women and men's size, toilet facilities, mechanical space, showers, dressing rooms. A concession stand, as you can recall, is located on the part of the site that provides access to a small eating court, an area so that the trash and all of the debris that may come along with snacks can be contained and controlled, but it's immediately accessible to the most I would say the most popular or used recreational areas of the pools. This also contains a first aid room. That's one of the code requirements. And a guard room. Now this is essentially a break room for the guards, but it has a large amount of glass, as would the manager and the operators, so that even while they're in the break room, they have visual access to what's going on on the site. These are elevations of the bathhouse. This end elevation is the north end, as you can see. This is the concession end. This is the street side. This is a long building, as you can see, and we have done some things to try to break it up. But one of the features is a lot of natural light, skylights, cupolas that provide skylighting. They also provide ventilation. We take advantage of natural convection currents that we can develop in here to keep the air inside fresh, keep it drier, and keep it more comfortable with minimal air conditioning or mechanical ventilation. It's an energy savings effort. Like I said, you have copies of these. These are sections. One's through the cupola skylight area, and the other is through the roof adjacent to that.
Excuse me, one question before you go on.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about air conditioning?
Mm-hmm.
This is air conditioned?
No.
Oh.
No.
That was just my comment. Who needs air conditioning
It's
in a swimming pool?
the ability to be able to take advantage of natural convection currents and actually create that convection that helps us avoid air conditioning or even other mechanical ventilation.
Well, I don't think you need an air conditioner in a swimming pool.
Hopefully not. But you find, these facilities, the bathhouses, do get terribly humid. They stay wet. And you need some ventilation to help control that. Plus heat will build up in there. So we've found that we can handle or mitigate most of that just through natural convection currents and cross currents to minimize any mechanical ventilation in the way of a fan, exhaust fan that may be required. That it so far?
I don't know if this is the right time, but how about solar panels? We
Um,
talked about that at the beginning, but I mean, is there any chance of incorporating that, Mike? Is there any money out there that we could also bring in that? Go green, guys, go green.
Yeah, we're trying to use as much of that as possible. Right now, photovoltaics, which generally generate electricity, and you need more south-facing wall. We are having some provisions within the second phase of this project, which is the community center phase, which does provide a larger south-facing elevation in order to put those solar panels on.
We have also looked, and as the budget allows us to complete items initially. There's a small set of bleachers that are identified on the site plan that will be covered. We're looking at the likelihood of being able to cover that with a hard structure that would support photovoltaic panels. The equipment building, as you will see in a moment, has a large canopy over a little picnic pavilion that also has a good large surface area of south-facing roof that would support photovoltaics.
As we develop the documents further, we can get more information to you on looking at that. There is a possibility, and it may be affordable, to use solar heat from a minimum amount of panels to take the chill off the underground water of the splash pad. And, you can, with about a $5,000, that's just the base cost for the panels, we can raise the heat of maybe a 4,000-gallon tank about 5 degrees per turnover. But we have to then look at what that would cost to actually install, and we can get more realistic figures once we start engineering the volumes of the pool in terms of gallons of water and things like that.
Excellent, thank you.
This elevation shows the end of the building that we were just looking at, the bathhouse, the north end, and the small administration space adjacent to it. And shadowed beyond this, or over it, is the outline of the future community center. The idea is that this initial phase is built and designed in such a way that it would be incorporated with maximum efficiency into the community center, and then would become administrative area for all of it, but with minimal adjustment in structure. The community center would just more or less envelop this space and tie directly to it. This is the equipment building. You see heaters, pumps, filters, and we haven't fully determined the type of chemical apparatus that will be used. We show a feature here that has storage tanks for sodium hypochlorite and muriatic acid. There are dry chemical systems, and these systems are constantly being redeveloped and improved. And this is just something that will continue to evolve as we proceed, so that in the final configuration, it'll be the safest, easiest, most efficient that's available at the time.
Again, what you see here is a holding space for the equipment that we anticipate we'll need without going through the construction document phase where we actually do the engineering of the pools. We've just given the architects some information to say this is what we think we'll need. So there's a lot more to be brought forward before this is set in stone.
The efficient deep gutter and deck level gutters on both of these pools. Both pools require a surge tank. This is a kind of a chamber that absorbs the backflow when pumps shut off, all the water in the gutters.
Cal, I need to help you out.
Okay, you help me out.
gutter systems on the pool, where the California State Code requires a pool over a certain square footage of water needs a full perimeter overflow gutter. And when you have a perimeter overflow gutter, you require a holding tank underground, or what we call a surge chamber, that takes the surge. When you've put 20 kids in a pool, they disperse about 2 or 3 gallons per person. It goes into the gutter system and it runs back into this holding tank, where the pumps are designed to pull some of the water from the bottom of the pool and some of it from the surge tank to recirculate it through the system. So anything that goes into the gutter system is not lost, it's retained in the system itself. And the only water that actually goes to backwash is when the filters get dirty and they go into backwash. So where were you going to say we're putting these tanks, Tel?
Thank you. Semantics on my term of backwash. Thank you. With the deck level gutters, the tanks have to be higher than the water level. So we'll have a foot to 18 inches necessary above the pool deck. We have located those 2 tanks, those 2 surge chambers here, and in order to use that space and give it back to the entertainment area or the recreational space of the site, we've provided a covered pavilion at the level of the top of those tanks. So it gives a slightly elevated, about 15-inch pavilion immediately adjacent to the play area, the recreational pool. What this also does is provide another area that you can reserve, or the community can reserve, for special functions, and you can rent the use of these spaces for special functions. Another opportunity for some revenue recovery. We'll review this at the end. Once we go through this, we'll go back to the final site plan, and it will give you a better idea of how all this comes together. These are elevations of the equipment building. This overhanging area here, and here, and this area right in there, is that canopy, and that what we call a pavilion. This is the community center as it's proposed. It has been refined somewhat from the last time you saw the floor plan, but this yellow area is the first phase office area for the pools, and then it is incorporated into the community center as it's developed. The community center has a large hall with an adjacent room that has a movable partition that can close it off. That can be used in conjunction with the large hall. The large hall also has access directly out to the patio, but this meeting room also has direct access to the pool, so it can be closed off and used for training and for other special pool events or pool activities. The facility includes a small commercial style kitchen, something we call a catering kitchen. It's not used to try to generate a restaurant, but it does provide the facilities for larger banquets and reserve functions. 2 other meeting rooms, both with access to individual outdoor areas for flexibility, and dividable by a partition, so they can be used independently or together, and of course centrally located toilet rooms. Any questions on any of this so far? These are the elevations of the proposed elevations of that building, and a section through the large hall and that adjacent meeting room. This is the entry elevation. This is the park side. This is the patio side, and the south side then is the side adjacent to the pool. Here's where that meeting room is, that has the access to the pool for training or for other special events. The committee directed us to, I think, to reflect on the heritage and history of the community. There's an appreciation here and some wonderful examples of California craftsman style architecture. So we, one of the places we start is to look at what defines craftsman style architecture. One of your houses here is a very nice example of that classic style. Roof overhangs, the classic craftsman style architecture departed from the Victorian style by I think focusing attention on the construction of it rather than the fenestration of a home or of a building, so that it doesn't have all of the articulated detail. It's simpler. It expresses a simpler structure, but a very classic style. I like working with it because it never quite loses its appreciation or the community's appreciation. It's always good architecture. It's something that will hold its value as a design style rather than fad architecture. And in some communities, we're asked to really pump up these aquatic facilities to make them like big games. But here I think we were directed to something more compatible with the lifestyle and the community. Here's a view of the equipment building with some colors and some materials identified. This, oh, now I did it. This is that pavilion area. You can see we're using a base line of a ledge stone, something that the committee felt was appropriate and would look nice. The siding material is a cementuous siding panel that is a shingle style. It's hardy panel if you're familiar with the name. It's a very durable product, vandal resistant, time resistant, easy to maintain, easy to paint, and painted. You have to, God forbid, chip on it to tell that it's not real shingles. I mean, it's an excellent product. Materials as they would be applied in colors that we have recommended because of the length of the building and that proportion. We've recommended using some vertical metal panels, everything from corrugated to a very heavily textured panel is available. That's one of the things that, frankly, the steering committee is least comfortable with, thinking it might become a little too agrarian or agricultural in its sense. But that's one of the things we'll work through as we continue into the design development phase. This just gives you an example of several different styles that are available: the roof shingles, the stone, and the siding. Now, in this case, the shingle siding is fitted to the small administrative area and ultimately to the community center. This is the parking lot, or the west view of the community center. Again, the same materials, the same I think relationship and reflection of craftsman style. Updating it a little bit because this is going to want to carry on for the next 40 years and still look stylish without going in or out of style like what I would call fad architecture. It's very classic, but a more updated interpretation of the classic craftsman style. Back to our site plan. Now you can see this is the the equipment building down here, the pavilion, the little food court, and these are just defined between grass areas and turf and hard surface areas like concrete. So we have our food court, that pavilion, the recreation pool, and the spray pad, shade structures. This can be used together for special events or just open to, of course, the use of the community on an open basis. Entry is here, drop-off area, accessible parking spaces. The future community center you can see outlined here. The first phase administrative office, the fence that would enclose this. We show some minimal berming along Merced Street just to help soften the view from the street. We don't want, and found that we really don't want to have berming too high because then it becomes a security issue. It's a place for kids to hide. But we do want enough to create some zoning and some screening. This is a colored rendition of the final site plan, or at least the most recent iteration of that site plan, and the one that that Michael and the steering committee have been the happiest with. It's the same site that you saw earlier in simple line drawing. The primary entrance from Inyo Avenue down here. We have relocated, right now in this intersection, there's a little half-court basketball court. And we were asked not to lose that. So we have incorporated it down here in the corner. It kind of helps buffer the access to the equipment building. Of course, the bathhouse, the community center, primary entrance to all of it takes place right here. There is emergency vehicle access to be made available here in this corner, and you can see the pools. This bleacher area here is the area, one of the areas we consider suitable for solar panels.
I mentioned at this point there was some mention early on in the process that of the possibility to have year-round use of the lap pool, and we've looked at the planning of this, and the lap pool separation from the recreation area would be possible to close off the recreation pools and maintain the lap pool with minimal staffing throughout the year.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, and typically I think swimming, any organized swimming classes or lessons start earlier than and end a little later in the year, even if it's not open all year, than you would typically use the recreation pool. The recreation pool is primarily a summertime event. This is a little rendered sketch of what the facility would look like. Let's say a little more mature, trees growing up and screening. But this is the front of the community center and the end of the bathhouse, and the primary entry to the community center with just offset the entrance into the pool. So it's all comes under control from a single point. That's our presentation. Do you have any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Just one quick one. Could you do me a favor? It's back on the. It's right near the end there with the whole pool itself. Not the colored rendition, but there's not pages here. But this one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. Just if you could explain where the different age groups would go. I mean, I know the lap pool and all that would be probably from what, 10, or.
The shallow end of the lap pool is 3'6" at the moment as it's designed. The double line that you see just below lap pool, the word it's lap pool, is 4'6".
Okay.
So that whole area is 3'6" to 4'6", which is relatively shallow.
Yep.
So all of that area could be utilized, for fairly young children, 6 6 years old on up for lesson programs. It could also be used for senior shallow aerobics, whereas the deep area could be senior aerobics that's what's the word? I've slipped out of my mind. People that are up off the bottom, there's enough depth there to do that as well. This pool, however, will be maintained more than likely at a much lower temperature than the recreation pool may be. So usually the average temperature in a lap pool is around 82 degrees. That probably feels cold when you get into it, but if you're doing any kind of laps, you can't really do any rigorous activity unless the water is cool. It's like going into a gym and having heating on. You wouldn't do that. So even 8 to 10-year-olds, and I did a lot of age group coaching, they'll swim a couple of laps in a pool warmer than 82 degrees and just get out and sit on the side in, January. So you have to maintain that at what's comfortable for the majority of the users. The recreation pool, on the other hand, could be temperature that's a little warmer, 84, 86 possibly, and you could teach 5-year-olds, 3 to 5-year-olds lesson programs, or you could have light senior aerobics. That water depth at the slide splashdown area, which you could use in the morning when the slide's not operating. The slide doesn't have to be open all the time. That water's 3'6", and that's good for senior aerobics as well.
Excellent.
And it can be kept that much more comfortable temperature for anybody that has arthritic conditions. It's also a more comfortable temperature for the young children when they learn to swim as well. So by utilizing the two pools, you get a broader cross-section of the community catered for. At this stage, we do have a heater anticipated for the splash pad, but as I said earlier, that is an ideal opportunity for a minimum amount of solar heating, just to take the chill off the water. Underground tanks put that water on the kids at about 63 degrees without heating, and that's pretty cold. So if you can heat it up even 5-10 degrees for that kind of splash feature, it's a little warmer than the garden hose.
And we have isolated, and all this has developed with Michael and the committee. They have been very strongly involved and very supportive and very helpful through this process. The social area of the pool, if you will, is contained over here at this end. The splash pad, shade structures, the recreation pool, the pavilion, the little food court, and very quick access to and from the entrance to the toilet rooms. We also have a family dressing room. It's a shower, an accessible toilet, accessible shower, and a small dressing area to be used for family members where we have a father with a daughter that has to be taken care of, doesn't want to take her into the men's locker room, vice versa, mother with a young boy. So, or for those disabled that really need a lot of assistance, it's a private facility for that. The distance from the bathhouse to the lap pool is about 50 feet. So it's a good distance, and it's a controllable distance so that kids going to and from the toilet rooms or in the bathhouse unaccompanied are under good visual control.
All of the bodies of water here are designed for public recreation swimming. So when you open the facility on the weekends, the whole facility can be open for public rec swimming. That's the step entry, the 3'6" deep of water, and the lap pool. All of those meet code requirements for public recreation. So the line again across the pool at the 4'6" depth mark on the lap pool, all that you need to do is put a lane line across there, and it designated shallow water from deep water, And it allows the children that are using the slides to run over to the lap pool, use the diving board, or jump in and out of there as well. So there's no part of the facility on public recreation days that needs to be closed off.
Go back to the last colored rendition of the site plan. Michael, and this is just a quick question. For the 5 residents that border the sound wall at the east end of the property, eventually when this project, although I think it's a beautiful project and it'd be kind of a nice backyard to look at, it calls for a 6-foot sound wall across the backside of that property, that comes to the backside of the 5 homes that border the property. Is a 8-foot sound wall out of the question? Is that something that by code that we can or cannot do?
If you look at it, it does say landscape buffer / sound wall. I don't think that determination hasn't been made yet.
Well,
we need to get in.
The other page, it says a 6-foot sound wall.
We need to get into final determination on that, and we'll address that with an engineer and some of
Okay,
our.
I'm just looking at
people
the two parking spaces at the end, and I know that some of their concerns was noise and sounds, and if I was the resident that lived in these last 2, some kid come in there with a boombox stereo on their cars, I can hear it and see it right now.
We will make every consideration that we can to make sure that
I'm just thinking,
is minimized.
it calls for a 6-foot sound wall, is what the plan said earlier, and if we put an 8-foot there, it might help alleviate that, and along with the landscaping and everything, it's a very nice looking facility, and I know that those residents were concerned about noise and things, so I know it's a ways off, but when we get there.
And there's no reason for it not to be 8 feet. And that, I think, is something we will look to those residents for some input.
I think that'd be wise.
The boom box is a kind of a separate issue, but in the general activity that takes place, the reason the parking is here, it's except for driving in and out, or the occasional kid that's going to sit there with a boom box, it's actually part of the buffer. We've kept the more active areas, the play areas, the picnic areas, and all as far away from the residences as is.
Oh yeah, and it's a beautiful site.
So yeah, you can't get it all the time. There are going to be some things that are going to require some monitoring. We would expect that the parking areas would be chained off after hours and essentially closed, so there wouldn't, at least you'd be able to more easily control nighttime or evening activities.
Think that's going to stop them?
Never stopped me.
Never stopped me either.
We used to jump over it.
So,
and the
you
neighbors
do what you
would
can.
all-
There is always something that you've got to come back and it gives your new officer, your reserve officer, something to do.
Oh, nice.
They've got plenty to do.
They're just you just can't cover everything, and so we try to minimize the most obvious impacts, the most typical or frequent impacts of noise.
Right.
Buffer that. Some of the things you just have to wait until some kid shows up with a boombox and somebody's going to have to go over and tell them to turn it down.
It won't take long.
I've got 3 areas of concern that I would like to address.
Okay.
One falls on the coattails of Ed with those 2 parking lots in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm adamantly opposed to that for the same reasons of the people living there. If those parking lots were on the side streets going down Fresno Street behind that arch area where it's the patios, and that back there was out of there altogether, it would alleviate the problems with the neighbors back there being impacted.
You mean putting
put it right through there, going the same way as the street, just make a parking area with spaces going in.
Okay, so you're talking about a linear lot.
Correct.
This way.
And then that would also give you parking for the community center, which would be closer to the community center.
Mm-hmm.
The second issue that I have would be the bleacher shade canopy area, one of the things we've talked about up here, and one of the things I think we would like to have incorporated would be some type of solar panels to help to heat that. I don't know what that structure actually looks like. I have gone up to Patterson and seen their pool, and they have a massive one-sided shade that faces to the south, and that's where they have their solar panels, which in this case, if things were flipped around a little bit, where the community center was on the south side and the recreation pool was then on the north side and the spray pad was there, then on that south side you could construct that large shade area, still having the bleachers being there for the lap pool, so when you had competitions they'd have bleachers, and then you'd have an ideal spot for the solar panels. Do you follow?
I think I'm following you. Maybe we could use you on the committee. Get up a little closer, or we can address that. The cover over the bleachers, as I said earlier, is assumed to be a hard structure rather than a fabric shade structure, in order to accommodate panels. The panels have the greatest exposure to the south, of course elevated, because they'll be above the bleachers to provide shade to the bleachers and good solar access for the solar voltaic panels.
Aren't those bleachers open to both sides so you can see both of those pools?
Actually, in looking at that, my comment would be that the best place for the solar panels, if you're going to use any of it for heat, is on the equipment room roof itself. You know yourself, when you turn your hot tap on, the water is cold for the length of time of the length of pipe that's underground. If we can't put 80% of the areas of the pool in solar heat, we're going to be short on the heat required, but there's no point in putting the solar panels at a distance where you have to actually heat the water, or that you're cooling the water when it's coming to where the water is needed to recycle it. So we'll look at how much we can get on the equipment room, and then we're getting the heat directly from the solar panels into the pool return systems to avoid the length of underground piping that you would have for that distance.
Well, and the other option is solar voltaic, where we're generating electricity to support the electrical needs of the facility. I'm still not sure I understand your concern. The roof of this shade structure over the bleachers would be covered with solar voltaic panels. It would be sloped so that it would be have a strong exposure to the south sun. The bleachers typically are not built so that you look both ways. Bleachers are stacked and actually have a view to one direction, although they're open, so you can turn around and look back to the other side, but that's not the primary function. So we have an area identified that the shade canopy over the bleachers would provide a platform for solar voltaic panels.
If you have a child that's in the spray pad or the rec pool part of it,
Mm-hmm.
where do you sit to watch your children?
There is a large lawn area here with and what we're anticipating here, that these are light, airy fabric type shade structures. So you're sitting here, you're monitoring the small kid area of the activity pool, which is this play feature, as well as the spray pad. So this is that area that the moms and dads or babysitters would sit in order to watch the small toddlers.
With the southern exposure it's going to have, how do you propose to get enough shade on them?
Depends on the time of day. During the summertime, remember, this is a summertime facility over here. These typically don't operate past mid-September or before the end of May, before Memorial Day to Labor Day. And the sun's at a relatively high angle. Seating can be all the way back up against the north side of it. During the summer, with the sun here at a relatively high angle, we get a good bit of shade. These structures are perhaps 10 to 12 feet tall around the edge, so you have good visibility, good openness, good ventilation, but it's low enough to where the low angles of the sun don't deteriorate any great deal of the shade. In the wintertime, the shade's going to be substantially behind that
Well, we don't care
fixture,
about
but-
the winter time. We're not
So-
going to be utilizing
right,
it at that
right.
point in time anyway.
Right.
So you think that in the summertime, that's going to give adequate shade to the people sitting there watching that pool?
Yes.
Okay. The last concern that I have is a diving board, and I asked you, what is our liability of having a diving board as swimming pool, since you don't see those anywhere anymore? Or very, very few, unless they're tied in with the school that has a swimming program.
Okay, let me let Trish.
There's
address
no other impact that a 1 meter springboard would have in terms of liabilities that the deep water would have. The reason that you have seen in the past a lot of diving boards that have been removed from pools is that the code changed some years ago and it deepened the water, and it also had requirements on the railings around the diving board and the clearance behind the diving boards, and many of the facilities that had them didn't meet the code requirements anymore, so they removed them. There was diving boards that were in, like, at that time, maybe 7-8 feet deep of water, which isn't recommended today in the code. The railings now have to extend 1 inch over the edge of the pool, and there's a double railing. You'll see many that are still in place that are completely open at the sides. Also, the clearance behind the diving board, where you get up on the steps of the diving board, you need to have 6 feet of deck at the back of it. A number of the facilities where they have been removed is due to not meeting code regulations, as opposed to any liability issues.
I think the most important feature of the diving board is that it is completely optional. The pool's not dependent on the diving board for any of its functions. The city attorney may want to ring in on it and talk to your insurance carriers and talk to your pool programmers to see where the balance, where the trade-offs are. But that's purely optional.
The other thing is there a need for a diving board? We can go ahead and design this facility and construct it and put the anchors in for a 1 meter board, and you can come back and add it later if there's a demand for it at the high school level. It's a high school competitive activity, 1 meter springboard diving, and if you had a high school program that had swimming and diving, you would be able to accommodate that if you had the ability to put in a 1 meter board. So what we've done for this exercise to this point is designed it to accommodate all the depth requirements, clearances, and everything for a 1 meter board. You could put in the anchors and not install the board. The board then you could buy at some stage later for $12,500, $13,000 and have it installed. If you have the anchors in place, you're all ready to go.
Well, our old pool, which I don't know if you ever saw or not, had a 3 meter board, and it used to be a lot of fun. Get up there and look over and finally jump off.
I worked with NTD Stickler, TAL on a project for the city of Brentwood, and they have 200-foot slides, and then they have a competition pool with 2 3-meter springboards and 2 1-meter boards, and they're telling us that the kids would rather go and do bombs off the 3-meter springboards many times than go down the water slides. So it still has a fascination.
As I look around in this audience, maybe John and I are the only two here that remember that
If you
3
ever
meter
went off
board.
the diving board, you're probably right.
I remember it.
And it probably wasn't recommended depth either.
Yeah, when we were brought into it, it was level
I
dirt.
used to dive, I was a diver.
Well, the Indian
Fresno.
knows it before that, so.
We had a 3 meter and 1 meter.
3 meter, yeah, well, I guess that's what we had to a high dive.
At this stage, we can change, we can take that out, leave it in. We're very early on in the process.
I didn't notice the tennis courts, where were they?
The parking lot.
And I see,
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
and I
this
see a
is
lot of trees
approximately-
too.
That's approximately
A
the
lot of
size of the
trees.
court.
A lot of nice trees.
This is depicted 15 years down the road.
I'm kidding. By that time, I want to be able to walk.
I'm struggling with that now.
66 cents for something.
It's be cheap shots now.
Ted would cover the pool and have it for tennis.
I saw there's a handicap bathroom for you, Ted. Any other questions or?
Can't wait. Cannot wait.
Only comment I would make is, I think you've done a wonderful job, and you certainly put a lot of things in there that people would normally not think of. I like where the bikes are parked. I thought maybe there should be some parks down on the other end for bikes, but that's real nice. You got an area down by the community center where there's bike parking.
Right. Yeah. Any kid that can ride a bike there can walk that far, and it keeps that clutter away from the entrance of the pool, as well as ultimately the entrance to the community center.
Michael, you and your committee did an excellent job too. Thank you very much.
They did. They have been great to work with.
With that, I heard some concerns by Councilman Greenclaw with the parking on the one side. Did you have the same concerns with the parking that was on the Merced Street side back there? And I bring that back because that's something that we're going to want to fine tune as we go into the next stage. And we don't have NTD stickler under contract to go into the next phase right now. And I didn't want to put that on your agenda tonight because I didn't want you to feel forced to approve something tonight. But we'd like to try to stay on task and try to keep this project moving. We are approximately, I think, 4 or 5 weeks behind schedule right now. But where we're at is still very good, and there's still plenty of room to meet our goal of a 2010 opening. And so we plan to bring something back to you February 12th, which would be the next phase of development, which would take us to about 45% drawings, 50% drawings, so we would really be about halfway there under the next contract.
Yeah, I think on that parking.
Let me clarify. Which February 12th?
February 12th is our next meeting here, so we're just looking at a contract on that. So.
I think in that parking lot, if the spaces towards the house were eliminated, that would alleviate that problem altogether. Okay. Then there wouldn't be any parking along.
So maybe if it was single stacked instead of doubled.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I think
that would certainly be doable. Yeah. And also, one of the things we looked at a little earlier was not. We did look at a lot pulling in, but it ate up an awful lot of the park. If we looked at perpendicular parking along here, and we looked at parallel parking along there, we got a good number of cars perpendicular parked, but there are always issues with backing out into a live street, and that's something that we try to avoid. Parallel parking would pick up 8 or 10 cars and alleviate this lot altogether. In other words, we could pick up those spaces right along the curb here. That's an option as well that we can look at. So the next time we come back to you or work through this with the committee for your concerns, those are some of the options we'll look at.
That sounds good.
It's easy enough to accommodate.
That sounds good. Send it back to the committee with the council's concerns from tonight's meeting and see what they all think since,
We'd like to
since the
address
whole
that
group isn't here.
Under the next phase, though, not go back to this particular phase. We'd like to do it under the next phase. So with council concurrence on February 12th, which is in 3 weeks, I'll bring back the next contract. Unless you want to give me direction right now to go ahead and proceed forward with with the next phase of this development and keep it moving, then I can send in a letter of authorization and keep this project moving.
That,
I don't have a problem.
Michael, would that parking, that whole park and that's not in the first phase anyway, right?
Correct.
We have to get some cost estimates before we can really tell you what we're trying to plan for phase one. We're trying to work off a budget of $5 million. And we're going to try to accomplish as much as we can with that $5 million. And so that's where this next phase is going to come in. I'm going to be able to talk to you about, okay, this is what $5 million will get us. Get you a parking lot in the aquatic center, but no grass.
Right.
You know, or it gets you all the grass but no tot structure. I don't know. We don't know what those are until we really start putting this down a little bit more on paper and start getting some hard costs involved.
One of the things we have looked at is that we don't have a soils report yet, but we're reasonably familiar with what we can expect when you dig down 13 feet. We also know that we can expect to do some over excavating just for the structures, for the foundations, footings. If we can lose that dirt on the site, then we have saved haul off and storage someplace. And so the berming around the site, we would expect to, for that material, it will be suitable for berming. It's not suitable, generally expected to be suitable for replacement or compaction back under the building. So it would be dispersed on the site in these berms.
In
So
the
that would
first
be one of
phase,
the-
sure.
One of the
I
things that
understand that
happens
part, yeah.
first, and if you broadcast some hydroseed over it, it becomes grass, and at least you have that facility and that a more attractive space for.
So you don't have to move the dirt twice. I understand that
Exactly.
completely. Sure.
Yeah.
I think we're ready to go ahead.
We're ready to go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Everybody concur?
Okay. So we're going to take into some considerations. What I'm hearing is those easternmost parking spaces where it says 17 as part of the park program, we're going to go ahead and eliminate those and convert that back to landscaping. Is that what I'm hearing from the council? And it kind of reduces those in half a little bit. And then, evaluate the wall, landscape structure along that back line there to make sure whatever is designed there, whether it's 6 foot, 7 foot, or 8 foot, is accommodating to those property owners and minimizes that impact on them.
I think it'd be wise to contact those 5 that live across the backside of that. There's going to be a sound wall. You know, it right now it calls for 6. You know, an 8. They're probably still going to say they don't want it there, period. But we're trying to accommodate them.
Sure.
And I don't think an 8-foot wall would look out of place. Whatever we can do to help.
When you're on the back side of an 8-foot wall, it's not always pleasant for the property owners. That's
Exactly,
why,
and
that's
I
why
think,
we need to
and I think that way, if we talk to them, tell them, it calls for a 6. We're proposing possibly an 8. What's your thoughts about that? And they may be okay with a 6.
Or one thing they might think of too, when it's quiet, nothing's going on there, and they're sitting in their backyard. If they have an 8-foot
That's
fence,
right.
they might be able to see
That's
the
right.
mountains.
Right.
That's what I would. That was the one thing that comes to mind. They might want to keep the 6 just to keep their view also.
I think just to give them that option.
Sure.
I see those parking spots as overflow. And
Well-
I don't think they're going to be used, but maybe 3, 5, 6, 7 times a year.
They're not parking places for the aquatic center as much as they are the park feature itself, because this is going to be at conclusion of the park phase of that. This is going to be a nice enough park to have a family event, a party out there for your young kids or even your adult, or a family reunion if it's not too big out there. So there will be some features out there that might accommodate a party situation. So.
I had one question on security of the facility. Where does the fence run? Does it run the complete perimeter?
No, the park itself is not fenced.
Okay.
At least that's the anticipation so far. Code and just practical applications of security and safety requires the pools to be enclosed in a fence. So this fence is this change. You'll see the change in color between the lawn on the inside and the lawn on the outside.
Okay.
that change is there to indicate that fence line or that barrier. I have 30 by 40 panels that have this on it. It has a number of the other slides of the colors, the styles that I can leave with Michael. So if you want to peruse those a little more or use them, they'll be available to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take a 5-minute break.
Michael, build it.
We're working. Working on it.
Who hit you with that? Randy?
Get it done.
Okay. As soon as there we go. We'll get the meeting back going. Item B, first reading and introduction of ordinance number 2008, next to meeting, amending Title 7 of the Newman City Code, Fire Code, incorporating the 2007 California Fire Code.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the audience. My name is Ken Slayman. I'm the County Fire Marshal for Stanislaus County. And I'd like to go through a quick presentation on what we're actually asking you to do. Stanislaus County Fire Authority asked us to put together an ordinance that all of the fire jurisdictions would adopt. The state in June adopted the 2007 International Code, which now becomes the 2007 California Fire Code as they've amended it. That is what we default to beginning January 1st. Any ordinances that you had that affected the fire code went bye-bye on January 1st. So what we're recommending is what's going to follow because the 2007 International Code is not as strict as the old 2001 Uniform Fire Code was. One of the things you have to do is do findings of fact. Those are based on geology, climate, and topographical conditions. Reasons for adopting a code. I already mentioned the Regional Fire Authority, so we'll go right on. Other cities that have adopted or are in the process of adopting the code, and most of this code you're going to see is this sprinkler ordinance, which is the main part of it. The city of Turlock presently has a 4,000 square foot sprinkler ordinance. The city of Modesto and the city of Ceres and the city of Riverbank have also adopted, so is West Stand, and Patterson is in the final part of adopting theirs. So all of your neighbors will have what we're recommending that you do. You need to also adopt the appendix and the appendices. The reason for that is that's the administration of the code. Without this, you can't really administer it. You can't charge fines, etc., and you can't enforce. The other things you can't do is water supply and access are actually in the appendix. If you don't have that, you don't get water supply and access. And speaking of that, those are found in Appendix B and C of the new code. Chapter 9 has been amended, or we're recommending that it be amended so that any building that exceeds 5,000 square feet in all occupancies would have a sprinkler system. We're also recommending that row housing, multifamily or multi-occupancy buildings, which I'll show you a couple, cluster homes, which are 3 or more homes sharing a single point of access that are compacted. I'll show you an example of that. Buildings 30 feet in height or more than 3 stories with an occupied floor. This is a typical multi-occupancy building. You will see on the bottom floor you have a,
No Starbucks.
Oh.
I'm sorry, they're everywhere.
Well, we could have got Pete's, but but you'll see that it's all retail on the bottom floor. And then normally there'll either be offices on the second floor and then dwellings above that, or in this case, you've got 3 stories of dwellings above. You also sometimes have parking behind and under the retail. This is that same building. This is the specific building here. I shot the picture from right there, so you can see what that looks like. We already have some of these coming into Modesto and into Ceres. They're going to be every place. This is a cluster home in the Modesto area. You can see you have a private driveway and a bunch of homes back there. Makes it difficult for fire apparatus to get in there. They can't maneuver. and we can't get back out. This is an example of what a cluster home would look like, and you can see that there are 11 homes across this back area. So you come in, this is a public street right here. You come in a driveway into the complex. This is all businesses over here. And then if you come down to this end, you have to protect all these homes. That's what we consider cluster homes. Any building on a lot that's less than 5,000 square feet, we also would like to have sprinklers. The reason for that is those buildings are usually pretty confined. You can't get fire apparatus, equipment, ladders, and firefighters around the building to fight the fire. You can only fight it from the street. So we like to be able to get where the fire is. Wherever the fire is burning, you want to get to the opposite end of the building and blow the fire back onto itself, rather than to blow the fire into the unburned area. If you blow it into the unburned area, it just makes it worse. Existing structures, you have to have an approved fire sprinkler system in existing buildings only. And I want to emphasize only. This is not a retroactive ordinance. If they do greater or equal to 50% of the assessed valuation in repairs, remodeling, or expansion, and then if the entire structure then exceeds 5,000 square feet. So if it doesn't exceed 5,000 square feet when they're all done, they still don't have to sprinkle it. One of the other changes is with UL fire alarm. We're now requiring a UL certificate for central stations. Right now, you can go to any answering point, and it can be staffed or not staffed, depending on what the people are doing. UL tells you what an answering point is supposed to be, so that we guarantee that if you're monitoring a fire alarm system, that gets relayed to the dispatch center in a timely fashion. And there is a grandfather. It's not retroactive. It's only on new ones. Hazardous materials permits. We're requiring an oversized key box if that's what the fire department wants, the local jurisdiction, so that we can put extra information in there. That would be the business plan, maybe drawings of the facility. If you have a complicated chemical plant, you want to have all that information available to the firefighters on scene so they can roll it out and take a look at it. Liquefied petroleum gas. One of the changes is outside storage, which is where it's supposed to be. You don't want to put LPG inside. Use, you have to have permits and you have to submit plans. And then there is an upper quantity that you cannot exceed without special permits. In assembly occupancies, one of the changes that we're recommending is that there is supervision by an adult on the site. We've had several instances where teenagers are the only ones present. They do their thing. There's 50 or more of them, and there is no adult supervision. This would require adult supervision and would also require some means to communicate with the fire department. And that may be a cell phone, a fixed phone, or some other means that's approved by the chief. There's also a provision for maintenance and protection of all above-ground tanks that have hazardous or deleterious substances in them. So like bulk storage plants, gasoline stations, anybody that has an above-ground tank, you have to protect it, mostly from vehicle, is what we're talking about, but sometimes from exposure. Some of these tanks are put right next to an exposure, another building, where if you have a fire in the building, the tank becomes an exposure and it is a real problem. And that's a brief summary. I'm willing to answer any questions, and anything I can't, I brought a couple of people with me that will.
Questions?
I've got a backup plan.
What's that?
Nothing.
No questions?
I'm sorry.
And thank you very much.
Thank
for your
you.
time. And we will be back at the regular, our public hearing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Michael, one quick question. Our cluster homes over there, is that a problem? Is that something that was addressed when they were built?
It's not necessarily a cluster because there's multiple points of access off the public streets. 1, 2, there's 3 points of access to get into that site. So, but what's going to affect them is the building code. The building code now requires a different separation, and then they're also smaller than 5,000 square foot lots. So they've been made aware of this since July, so they may take the necessary adjustments. Mayor, we are asking that this be introduced.
Okay. I need a motion then, even though it's a first reading.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item C, Public Works Sewer Machine Purchase Report and Bid Award.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You too, Mel.
Gee, Mel, stick around. It's good seeing you.
Yeah. Was that who that is? Fire chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This item is a request to purchase a sewer and storm pipe cleaning machine. Public Works Department is looking to replace a high-velocity pipe cleaner that was purchased in 1986. This machine is pretty much worn out with many repairs and replacements of the water tanks. At the present, the water tank needs replacing because it's leaking severely. The only benefit to this is I know where the crews are at all times. All I have to do is follow the trail. We solicited sealed bids for a trailer-mounted sewer cleaning machine, and we only received one bid. The machine quoted by WECO meets all the bid specifications that is advertised. This machine has many improved features that, such as swivels for the hose reel so that the hose won't bind, and we can swivel the reel to access some of the manholes that are in some backyards, like around the Amy Drive area. And of course, we've got improved spray pattern and jetting capabilities. So staff recommendation is that the council approve and award the bid proposal for the purchase of a trailer-mounted sewer line cleaning machine to Waco Industries of Vacaville for $39,995.35.
You could have them on a breadcrumb dropper in the back, Ernie, so you could keep track of them where they go in.
Is that big blue?
That's that big blue machine, yes. Yeah, it's a very important piece of equipment.
How often do you use it, Ernie?
We use it up to twice a week. And we have some problem lines that clog up pretty frequently. Those are the ones that we're looking to replace for our CDBG monies for the coming year. But at the present time, we do use them at least once a week. It also comes in handy when we have these siphons on the streets for the stormwater. A lot of dirt and debris gets in there, and that jet rotor goes in there and just cleans it out really well. And so it not only serves the for resolving problems with the sewer, but also the storm drain system.
Further questions?
I would move to approve and award the bid to Waco Industries for a trailer-mounted sewer line cleaning machine in amount of $39,995.35.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Ernie.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Item D, adopt resolution number 2008, next number, a resolution reviewing and approving budget adjustments as proposed in the annual mid-year budget report.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you know, each year we do mid-year budget reviews so we could put the figures more in line with what the actual revenues and expenditures should be. Tonight we recommend, and I can only see a little bit, so I'll try to read my paper. Tonight we recommend that the revenues will be decreased by approximately 1.9 million. We discussed this in the staff report, and basically what this includes is decreasing the development fees. This is offset by what expenses we would put out too, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. The other recommendations include increasing the city's expenses by $74,900. These were also presented in the staff report. The increase for the expenses are for much-needed projects throughout the city. The city is in good financial standing. Even with these recommendations, the city will be fine. I would be happy to answer any specific questions that anybody may have on any of the adjustments.
Questions? Everybody read through them and understand what's happening.
That's good. I'm particularly pleased to see the part-time position be eliminated in the police department and create a full-time office clerk position. It's been long overdue, as well as the barcode system. And I'm not sure how aware the rest of the council is. Our evidence, I know the evidence room in the PD is just packed full of stuff, and this barcode system is going to make it so much easier for our evidence techs to track evidence, to get evidence out of the evidence room when officers need it to go to court and so forth. And that was long overdue, and I'm really glad to see that purchase is going to be made. So with that, I would like to move to adopt resolution number 2008, next in number, a resolution reviewing and approving budget adjustments as proposed in the annual mid-year budget report.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Sonia. Item 8, report on Southwest County CDBG Consortium, review and approve a list of 2008-2009 CDBG projects.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an annual event for us, and back in June of 2004, as you may recall, the city of Newman did join in and executed a cooperative agreement with Stanislaus County, and we became part of an entitlement program for the Community Development Block Grant Program. We sit with the county and other, I believe there's 4 or 5 other cities within the county: Oakdale, Ceres, Patterson, and I'm not sure if Turlock's in there or not. But what this does is this grants us an allotment of CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant Funds, on an annual basis, and therefore we don't have to apply for competitive funds. Part of what we struggle with, or not struggle with, or part of what comes along with this program is you have to qualify these projects based upon income level. Most of the projects, as you're going to see right now and that we're presenting to you, fall under a category of, because the whole entire area falls below the income level as threshold as set by the federal and state governments. We are targeting most of our funds into those areas right now. Otherwise, we have to go out and individually count the users, and 51% of the users have to be low income and fill out the appropriate paperwork. So as you can see, what we're projecting is this year there's about $570,000 that's going to be available to us, and part of that is because of there's some carryover for the last couple of years. One of the major projects that we were working on, somehow the county misqualified it and put it under a different program, and it didn't qualify, so we weren't able to expend the funds. We actually sit right now with the engineered project ready to go, but we can't expend the funds because the county didn't include it in their action plan, if you will. So,
and which one was that?
That's the remove and replace the sewer lines on 5 different streets. So part of those problems with those are, and I'll talk a little bit about it. There's 5 projects that we're recommending right now. The first project, as I indicated, was the removal and replacement of 5 blocks of sewer line. And these areas are basically old, and Ernie, help me out here if I get a little backwards on this. They're old terracotta lines, and so the tops have kind of collapsed, and there's lots of times it could just be a channel underground, and they tend to plug up, and those are the lines Ernie was referring to, and you got to get in there and spray them and clean them out, and they've been causing us a lot of problems. Right now, I think we have 5 lots already engineered, and the cost estimate for those is about $190,000. Plus, there's about $20,000 or $30,000 worth of engineering. And then we added a sixth block. Ernie, do you recall which one that was? That last block that we just added?
Yeah, that's the one between P Street and S Street and Fresno and Merced.
So T&S between Fresno and Merced, there's another block there that qualifies as part of the census tract that we're looking at. So another project that we are recommending is the installation of curb gutter and sidewalk, and we put along Fresno Street. If you look between R and T, basically by the FDES Hall, there's no curb and gutter and sidewalks, and here's some images that you can see right now, and today's a good day. It actually rained a little bit, so you can see what's occurring in there. What other ones do you have? So as you can look up on the top there, you have dirt. And this is the main thoroughfare for kids who are walking to Yolo Middle School. They come down this block, and this is the way they access downtown, because most of them will go down to one of the local convenience stores there. And so this should accomplish and cure some of these ills that we're seeing on the slides right now. And there's one more on there. With the concurrence of council, we'd like to kind of phrase this a little bit more in general, because if there's some extra funds, there's some areas along T Street that you might have seen if you're driving down, where the roots have pushed up some of the curbs, and we'd like to go in and start doing those as well. So we're not really sure at this point in time how far 200,000 is going to get us. And you can probably estimate this is probably going to be a first phase, and then we're going to try to get along T Street and clean up a lot of that work too. So these CDBG funds are really going to go into this area and rehabbing the area. You're going to have curb or sidewalk going into this particular area over here. And these are tangible improvements that people can see. And what we're trying to do with staff is do a combination of those. The first project I talked about, the sewer lines, people don't see that particular project. And yeah, they're going to benefit, and it's going to affect their daily lives, but it's not tangible. They don't see it because it's underground. Now, this particular project is a very tangible project that I think people are going that will see, and they're going to, I think, endorse it. The third project that I have identified is the continual rehab that we're doing at Pioneer Park. In this particular case, we're hoping that the picnic shelter is a project that we'd like to continue to move forward with. It is getting into a state of disrepair. If you look at it, the barbecue structure is underneath it. We'd like to move that out from underneath it, and we'd like to do some hardscape work around there, and then that would complement the new bathroom structure that you've seen out there. They've already carved out the footings and for the foundation on that one, and the playground equipment that goes on there as well. A couple years ago, and I put initiate on here, but the city started a program which helps sponsorship for youth who may not be able to qualify financially for some of the youth activities, and there has been some success with that. We'd like to continue that program and start getting the word out a little bit earlier. And then lastly, this is when in working with the county, several years ago, the county went out and secured a grant, and this is for computer training, and what they've done is they've developed curriculum for, I think there's 10 or 12 different programs. It's called What's Inside the Box, and you open up the computer and you see what's in there. Internet access, Microsoft Word, Excel, web design, a series of computer training programs, and these are 3-hour-long programs, and they're condensed. And they'll come out and host these programs for us. I've spoken with Superintendent Rick Voss, and he's actually very excited about this. What we would do then, if the council concurs, is through a $10,000 grant or $10,000 setting aside, we would be able to do about 250 students, to support about 250 students to take these classes. Rick Voss, our superintendent of schools, has offered to allow the city to utilize their computer labs for these trainings. So, computer tutor, and through who the county's working with, the CDBG program is working with, will come out twice a month and conduct classes and teach classes in computer training twice a month, and potentially 20 people per class, and go from there. So we could, I think we could do a lot of benefit to the lower income people, and it could teach them job skills, get them more involved with computers. It also helps some of the lower income parents who may be ESL parents and their kids are starting to get into the computer age and they're really scared about that because they don't understand it. Their bilingual classes, they can get in and get fully trained on there and start understanding what it is that their kids are doing in these boxes, if you will, because they've never come across them in their life. So with the $10,000 set aside on that, we think we can affect approximately 250 residents of Newman for that project. So those are the projects that we've laid out before you, and I'm willing to take any of your comments right now. And
Questions, comments?
No, I like where the project that you've is designated where the money will be used. I think that they make sense.
Obviously, the two about doing the archaic lines, sewer lines, water lines, that's very important to the older parts of town, and the curbs and gutters. I mean, those are two things that, that's very important to rehab the old historic parts of town.
So, and any extra funds that we use, and again, I'm going to generalize this. Install curb, gutter, and sidewalk, not be as specific about Fresno Street, because if there's extra funds, then we would like to extend that into T Street. And I've seen some shakings of the head and concurrence from the council that yes, T Street is a street that we probably need to start looking at the gutters and fixing those up a little bit. So we'll definitely roll forward with that. And whatever's not expended this year, we go ahead and engineer it so we can move forward with another year project. Sometimes funds become available because other cities aren't expending them. So we may be able to steal some and say, hey, look, we got a project ready to go. If the county needs us to expend a little bit extra money for them, we will.
We don't steal, we borrow.
Reappropriate.
Reappropriate. There, that's the correct law term.
Political
Thank you.
Just spit it out.
So if I get concurrence from the council, this will be the list we will submit for the 0809 CDBG project year.
And those monies are what we're going to be having come to us, Michael?
Well, that's what they're estimating at this point in time, because you never know when you're dealing with the state and federal government and a $15 billion deficit. So CDBG is always on the chopping block. So at this point in time, we're fully expecting that, and their estimates have come in low, but we're expecting about 570 to be available to us.
So to prioritize in the item one then to those water lines is obviously is first and foremost.
Yes, the sewer lines are number one for us because it's
Right.
engineered project ready to go.
Right. Okay.
So with that though, I'd like to, I didn't put any on the other ones, but if the council would like to even go into that, whether the picnic shelter is depending on how much funds we have, the picnic shelter and the curb gutters and sidewalks.
Well, I think curb gutters and sidewalks before the picnic shelter.
Okay.
I think the way they're
listed is
the way they're listed
Okay.
would be the way to go.
Sure. So if as long as the threshold doesn't fall below what we can do for a quality project, and that's the way we'll move forward with this. It's the way it's projected on the sheet there, and that would be the sewer lines, install curb gutters and sidewalks along Fresno Street, and any remaining would be spent on T Street. Continue the rehab of Pioneer Park. Initiate or continue to fund the program that sponsors youth participation in recreation programs, and sponsor a community-based computer training program. Excuse me. Okay. Thank you.
Might as well get a motion to make it official.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Item F, report from our supervisor, Mr. DiMartini. Yep.
Good evening, Mayor Panazia, council members. I just have two things tonight. I know it's been a long meeting tonight. Again, I wanted to remind the city of the EDAC meeting coming up on January 31st, where we would hope that you would submit a project for a grant or for at least for planning of something. Some of the cities have responded and submitted projects already. Although it's not necessary to send them to the county in advance, we would hope that you'd be thinking about something that would create, in order to qualify for the grant, job creation and economic development. Now, there is money available from the federal government, we are told, and we're asking each city, along with the county, to think of a project that you would like to get a grant for. Now, these are not low-interest loans. These are just outright grants, and they can go up to $3.5 million. And with the demographics that we have, with the unemployment rate hovering around 10% now, and the income levels actually below the state average, we would qualify for anything from the federal government that can create jobs or show economic development. So at our next meeting on the 31st, perhaps you can come up with something. It doesn't have to be detailed at this point, but at least be thinking along those lines and maybe have something written for that. The other thing is the West Side Healthcare Task Force. I haven't talked about it for a while. We do have the next meeting coming up in February 7th in Gustine. We have a sample of a brochure. I know you can't see it from here, but this is what it looks like. We have spent considerable amount of time over at least the last 6 months in determining what we have on the west side. So we put together a mailer, and this is going to be presented at the next meeting, of a listing of all the doctors in their specialties and where they are, hours of operations for each of the clinics, and the locations of these on a kind of a basic map. This is the first time anything like this has ever been done in this area, and it took quite some time to get this information together, so we do have that ready now. But even more importantly, we have now put together a matrix using OSHPD information that shows why people in this area, the whole west side from Gustine to Vernalis, go to emergency rooms. And it is quite a detailed report that the county has put together by zip code and by a type of disorder that forced you into the hospital. I'll just read a couple of them here so you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Respiratory diseases, digestive diseases, circulatory diseases, those sorts of things. I mean, I could go on, but there's all kinds of things that can bring you in the hospital, as you know. Anyway, we have categorized that by zip code, depending on the area, and we've also looked at where the people have gone. If you lived in Newman and you had a respiratory problem, did you go to Memorial Hospital? Did you go to Emmanuel Hospital? Did you go to Doctor's Hospital? And this type of information has never been put together before. So we're looking at where the patients live, what kind of ailments that they had, and what facility that they went to get it treated. Now, the long-term goal of this is to build a 24-hour urgent care facility for the west side. So we are quite a ways along now in the information that we've put together, knowing what services we do have, what the ailments are, where they come from, and then where people go to get it treated. So with this, we will be talking to the hospitals that patients have went to see if we can get any kind of funding out of them for a facility here on the west side. For instance, we would know what the economic impact was, especially in emergency rooms, to say Emmanuel Hospital. And so this would give us something to talk about to see if they would help us with this facility. And we still have a long ways to go, but as far as statistical information that we've been working on probably this for almost a year now, I think we have what we need now to move forward. At our last meeting, we did not have all the information, but it is complete now. These packets, sorry about that, they're shelf underneath. These packets will be mailed out tomorrow. There's a lot of pages to them, but it's fairly easy reading, and it's very statistically analyzed to really show what the problems are here, and so you can see that. So then that is again in Gustine on February 7th, and these will be mailed tomorrow.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 11, items from the city manager and staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder for our two-on-two committees. Monday the 28th, we will be doing a 2-on-2 with the school district, 4:30. And then at 6 p.m., we will be doing 2-on-2 with the city of Patterson following that. So,
Are we in Patterson or Newman?
we're here.
We're here?
Here.
We're hosting.
Okay.
That's correct.
We having dinner?
Are we
Yes,
gonna-
we will be serving dinner.
Here or in the conference room, or?
We haven't made that final determination yet, but we will give you a notice on that one.
At 4:30, you're serving dinner?
What's for dinner?
Oh, snacks for you.
It's not for you, sorry.
Why do they get dinner, we don't?
Wait a second now.
'Cause
We
you didn't
don't
wanna
get
be in
anything at 4.
All right, we'll have ours at 4:30. You can have yours at 6.
Okay.
Well, but we'll have dinner.
With that, yeah, I think each member of the council received a correspondence from Supervisor O'Brien today regarding the Area Resource Board. If you have any questions on that, you may want to refer to the mayor on that. If you didn't get the one with the resolution, it's probably in your box.
Yeah, I just got
there's
the
ones
whole
coming
thing
forward,
right now.
and we anticipate that'll be on the agenda for the 12th. The agenda for the 12th is quite stacked, and there'll be lots of items for you guys. With respect to the EDAC that our supervisor has been talking about the last couple of meetings, a couple of the projects that we're looking at submitting right now is a Highway 33 precise plan. It's a studying document. It basically comes out with a precise plan on what Highway 33 will look like, how wide it will be, and where the lanes will be from Stir Road all the way to the county line. So that way, as businesses come forward, and we know, and when businesses are looking to locate here, we can say, okay, this is what your right-of-way dedication is. This is what you need to do, and so that way we know exactly what our right-of-way is going to be through our town as we develop our general plan. The other thing that we're looking at is a sales tax. It's called plugging the leaks, trying to figure out where our sales tax are going and how we can plug those leaks and capture those sales here in Newman. So what it would do is you would have somebody come in and they would then do a market study, if you will, or a survey and look at, okay, what products are people buying in Newman and what are we having to go outside of Newman to purchase? And that would be for our residents. And then what you do is you use that tool to help people either start up a business or help businesses relocate here. If you can say X number of dollars is escaping our community and going to Turlock to buy Y product or Y type of product, if you will. And that could be like, Home Depot type products, or I know we have Yancey here, but another type of stuff like that. So that's a program that we're looking at here that would help attract businesses here and help people start up businesses here and create jobs here and keep the sales tax local. So the deadline for people to apply for our commissions is February 6th. If anybody is interested in applying for either our Architecture Review Commission, our Recreation Commission, Parks and Recreation, or our Planning Commission, they can contact Mike Meyer at City Hall. Come by. It's a very simple application. It's one pager. And then the hardest thing you need to do is face the council and tell them why you want to be on it. But even that, seems to work out.
Are we getting any applicants other than the current members, or?
I haven't looked at recent. Yeah, we have one outside of an incumbent.
Good.
Working with the 9 city managers and the county CEO and Vince Harris from Stancog. Excuse me. It appears that the county may be moving forward in half-cent sales tax for transportation purposes again in the 2008 election. So Vince Harris will be getting out a staff report and summary to all the city managers, and we will have that on your agenda for February 12th to look at the program that we're recommending. What I can tell you is Newman will benefit tremendously. We would get approximately $7 million over 20 years. We'd get about $350,000 a year for local projects. The council determines what a local project is. If you want to do it all to potholes, we do it all to potholes. Widening streets, stoplights, non-motorized transportation. As long as it has a transportation focus to it, and that's really where it's going to go. So the pot has really been split 50-50. 50% of the money goes to local projects and 50% of the money would go to regional projects. And the region would be broken down into 3 regions. There would be North County, Central County, and South County projects. So that's kind of the flavor that the city managers with the CEO, Mr. Robinson, and Vince Harris have all come up with, and we're trying to capture that in white paper, submitted to all the city councils to see about support for that. So. And the sales tax would be distributed on a population base. So to give you kind of an example, the city of Newman generates approximately 0.75% of all the sales tax that's generated within Stanislaus County. But we have 2% of the population. So we would get 2% of the money, not 0.75% of the sales tax generated here. So fiscally, I think it would be a very good project and benefit for the city of Newman if that transportation tax passes. So. We sent the final payment off to the L&B Hill Trust. That is now officially our property, so we will be bringing some proposals back for you on what to do with the house and how to move forward with some of the things going on with that property. And lastly, Ms. Felber, the Felber family was here at the last meeting, and so we're working on taking care of that at a staff level, not having to bring that back to the city council. So
Excellent.
with that, that's all that I had for you. Oh, the last thing, I'm sorry, 2 more things. West Park, originally West Park had scheduled a February 5th meeting here in Newman, and that was to deal with land uses being proposed out at Crow's Landing. Because that is like Super Tuesday, they didn't want to have that negative connotation or say, hey, you planned it on that day. So they rescheduled that, I believe, for February 28th. And that'll be here at the Louis J. Newman building. Again, that's a West Park project, not necessarily a City of Newman project. So, and then lastly, I know SCM was here complaining as always. They don't understand. It's a very, we're trying to take 2 agreements and marry them in together and really make it so when I'm long gone or this council's long gone into the future, it's easily read and you can make it flow. So it's a project that's going to get done. It'll get done on the 12th. And I talked to their president about this. He understood. He's, again, my personal feeling is that they're just posturing again. So, but we're working diligently to get that done. With that, that's all that I had.
Other staff reports? Everybody
Hello,
awake,
Mel.
Wake back there?
Wake up, Mel.
I just have 2 quick informational items. The storage building that we approved in the budget over at the Waterworks has pretty much been completed. It's a 12-foot by 60-foot building that's got 3 separate rooms, 3 12 by 20 separate rooms with steel doors and separate keys. And so that's all we need to do now is prime and paint the outside and finish the sheetrock inside, taping the sheetrock. It's all installed and ready to go. And the public works crews have been busy removing mistletoe from street trees, so we're going to be sending out those abatement notices soon and get moving on that. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ernie.
you, Ernie.
And the drum roll starts.
Mayor and members of the City Council, a couple items I'd like to report out. First of all, Last Thursday, we held the senior lunch with the chief, and in honor of the
Was Ted
aquatic.
there? Was Ted there? Oh, sorry. Ted. I couldn't resist that.
In honor of the Aquatic Center presentation, I'd say things went swimmingly during that luncheon. It was well attended. I had a side bet with the city manager that I can get 100 seniors in there. We had 105 RSVPs, but only 90 signed the form, so
Don't tell me he
I lost
reneged.
the gentleman's bet.
He reneged?
Oh, big time. But I like to.
He probably signed them.
I like to pass out these the magnets that we put together for the seniors. And matter of fact, we have additional magnets available at City Hall and at the police department.
This is John.
And what we did is we went over important phone numbers for the city of Newman and how to access governmental services.
We need one more, but that's right. Here.
There you go. Here's several
Here's
more.
Ted, send that back to
Yeah,
us.
yeah,
There's
that's
several more there.
Ted, here's yours.
I'm a nice guy.
So the whole idea was how
Mine's
seniors
in
can access governmental services, both for the city of Newman, also referral services, so in case they're dealing with issues and they need help in how to locate those services. We had this a presentation. Well, first of all, there was a presentation by myself on police services. City manager talked about City Hall, commissions, and other pertinent issues, recent issues going on in the city. How to access animal control. We had a public works presentation. So it's how to get a hold of services and not have to look them up and not know where to look and so on and so forth. Also, we had a nice presentation from the 211 system, which is just recently went operational. And anytime you need any type of social services and you don't know where to turn to, you just call 211, tell the person what it is you're dealing with, and they'll get you plugged into the right social service throughout Stanislaus County. So it's a fantastic system, and it just went on board. So that was on last Thursday. Last week, a couple of cases of importance. One was a situation that turned out, first it was an abandoned auto, but then the license plate didn't match the vehicle. Turned out that it was a stolen vehicle, hot car with stolen plates. We did some more research. We found in the driveway of the house a stolen trailer with a stolen Ski-Doo. We canvassed the neighborhood. We located witnesses as to who was driving these vehicles. It was enough for us to get a search warrant to get into the house. Once we got into the house, we realized in the garage that there was a meth lab that was operational. And the sergeant who was in charge of the operation realized that he was dealing with hazardous chemicals, brought the troops out of the garage, got them away from that situation. We called in the Stanislaus Drug Enforcement Agency, in which we're a member of. They responded along with the county hazardous materials. And I have to praise them. I did praise them at the last chief's meeting. Their response time was less than an hour once they got the call to get on scene. Some of the chemicals were very dangerous chemicals. They were stabilized, but yet dangerous in the disposal. We had to call in a special unit out of the state to come in and take some of these chemicals out of the location. But something that turned out just to be, started out as an abandoned auto, turned into a gentleman being arrested for 7 felony counts. And he has previous conviction and previous prison sentence for manufacturing meth. So, and then last weekend, part of our crime suppression efforts is we have our volunteers out driving in unmarked vehicles, just additional eyes and ears for the police officers. They see something, they call it in, the officers go out and check it out. They came across a kegger party, and it was a violation, first violation of our social host ordinance. And they called in the officers came in. As soon as the cops got there, everybody split, except the person who gave the party. She's in custody. And we're going to go after them for the costs that we incurred in breaking up this kegger party, according to the social host ordinance. Let's see. Just as a point of interest, there was an item on the agenda tonight on the public nuisances. Last week at this time, there was 12 public nuisances that were going to come before the city council. But Edgar, in working with the property owners, was able to alleviate all of those. So it's, again, it's the code enforcement effort at its best, and it's also the citizens working with the police department to abate their own problems and not having to come in front of the city council. And then the last thing I have, I received a call today from a federal agent from the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration, Customs Enforcement. They were out late last year on one of their cases involving a Newman resident. It was a child pornography case, possessing and trafficking in child pornography. This gentleman, we assisted in the search warrant, and it was actually a critical component of the investigation, because there was a motion to suppress evidence hearing in which the suspect claimed that he was held 4 hours at gunpoint, and the federal agents had no records of what time they went in and what time they came out. However, Detective Goslin, when he arrived on the scene, he went off on his radio, advising dispatch when he arrived, and when we cleared, he went off on the radio again. So we had accurate records as to how long we were actually inside that house, and that was the evidence the judge needed to throw out the motion to suppress. There was a trial last week. This individual was convicted. Took the jury 1 hour to convict him, and now he's looking at many years in prison. So just want to give you some updates on some recent cases. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you, Chief. Is that it for the staff reports? They're saying yes.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, out of some council members, Mike?
I have nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Bob?
We're not playing soccer?
You could start a winter league if you'd like. Keep telling you that.
I have nothing. I'm just pleased that our aquatic center is moving right along, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Ted?
I just want to, I'm sure from the council, say thank you for a wonderful dinner last Friday night. That was a neat time, and it's a lot of nice people. We got some great people working for the city, and that was a lot of fun. Thank you.
I too would like to thank Terry for putting that together and the rest of the staff. It was a great dinner. It really was a nice evening, and I think by far one of the best employee appreciation dinners that was put on. Everything was just great, and I got to walk and talk to a lot of people, a lot of new employees that I haven't met yet. So it was fun. And Chief, I'd just like to thank you also. I talked to a couple of friends of mine that are in the senior category that attended your luncheon, and I asked them about it, and they were just so pleased. And it was kind of, I think, kind of awkward in the sense that these people have been here for a long time and had no idea what kind of services were available, and they were just so tickled and so pleased. And that chief is such a nice man. I said, don't let him fool you. but they really enjoyed it, and it was great. So thanks for that. The California League of Cities conference I attended last week with Councilmember Kelly and the mayor. It was pretty informative, although it was more. I think the annual conference is far better, and the Advanced Leadership Conference is more in tune. I think what we need to go to, but nevertheless, it was good. And the networking was good, and still was able to come away with some good information, so that was great. And lastly, I'd just like to comment, we all received a letter from Mr. Delatorre, and I wasn't real sure if he was ready to complain about the raise in water rates or the quality of our water, or both.
Yeah, it was a little yeah, it's kind of,
I think it was the quality.
I didn't quite understand, but I think it was a quality of the water.
Yeah, and I can sympathize with his situation. Apparently he's got some health issues, and I don't think there's anything we can do to help him with that. However, I think the comment that he called and was not able to get any assistance from anybody was kind of what piqued my interest more than anything else. And I don't know that we as a city can contact every citizen in Newman if there happens to be a change in what we do with our water. His situation is, I mean, he threats or states is life threatening, and so that kind of concerned me. So I don't know if there is a way that we can contact him if there's a priority, or if there's an emergency, or if there's a sudden change in the way we do our water, or if there's maintenance work to be done in his residential area is going to cause water to be turned off.
If we have a planned maintenance and someone's water is going to be shut off for a period of time, we try to make people in that area effective of notice things. But if something breaks,
Yeah,
we have
right,
to go out there and
right,
shut down for an hour
right.
or two, then that tends not to happen.
Yeah.
Again, if we have planned maintenance and people's water is going to be shut down for any more than just an hour or two, we try to make
Right.
notice of those people.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Michael, it might be worth a call to him just to reassure him that we'll do everything we can to make sure that his needs are met in whatever manner we can, possibly. And that's about it for me.
Thank you, Ed. And I had nothing further. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.